Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I continue bringing you another video about the story of Hoài Ca and Hùng. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to press the like button to support my channel. In the previous episode, after the misunderstandings between the family and Hùng were finally explained clearly, the worries in everyone's hearts gradually faded away. The honest meeting between Hùng, Hoài Ca's grandfather, and her older brother helped them understand more about who he truly was and how sincere his feelings were. They realized that Hùng genuinely loved and respected Hoài Ca, and the reason the two of them had not yet had a proper wedding was simply because of the financial difficulties they had faced before. After that conversation, the atmosphere within Hoài Ca's family became much warmer and more peaceful. Her grandfather was no longer troubled or concerned as he had been before. Hoài Ca's brother also felt reassured when he saw that his sister was truly happy with her choice. From that moment on, Hung's relationship with the family slowly became closer as well. He was no longer just someone standing beside Hoài Ca, but gradually became a true part of the family. Life for Hoài Ca then returned to its familiar peaceful rhythm. She continued staying close to her grandfather to learn traditional herbal medicine, just as both of them had hoped from the very first days she returned home. Every morning, when the sun had just begun to rise above the distant rows of trees, Hoài Ca would follow her grandfather out to the medicinal garden behind the house. The garden was not very large, but it contained many valuable medicinal plants that her grandfather had cared for over many years. Hoài Ca slowly became accustomed to that simple way of life. She learned how to recognize each type of plant and how to distinguish between leaves that looked very similar but had completely different uses. Some herbs needed to be picked early in the morning while the dew was still resting on their leaves. Others had to be dried carefully before they could be used. Every remedy and every small piece of experience her grandfather shared was remembered by Hoài Ca with great care. Besides learning herbal medicine, she also helped her grandfather take care of villagers who came seeking treatment. Whenever someone came asking for medicine, Hoài Ca often stood beside him, observing how he checked their pulse, asked about their symptoms, and then carefully chose the right herbs for each case. The traditional remedies were simple, yet they helped many people in the village feel better. For Hoài Ca, that period of time was not only about learning knowledge. It was also one of the most peaceful chapters in her life. After everything she had gone through before, her current life felt truly meaningful. She was able to stay close to her family and at the same time reconnect with the traditions that had always belonged to her roots. But that peaceful life did not last as long as she had hoped. One early morning, when a thin layer of mist still covered the medicinal garden behind the house, Hoài Ca and her grandfather went out to gather herbs as they usually did. At first, everything seemed exactly the same as before. Her grandfather slowly showed her each plant, reminding her how to recognize the leaves, the stems, and the unique scent of every herb. However, after a short while, Hoài Ca began to notice that something was different. Her grandfather's steps that day were much slower than usual. Each time he walked from one row of plants to another, he had to pause for a few seconds as if trying to catch his breath. His face also looked paler than it normally did. At first, Hoài Ca thought he might simply be a little tired because the morning felt slightly warm. But when she looked more closely, she realized that his breathing seemed heavier than before. She gently asked him, "Are you feeling tired, Grandpa?" Her grandfather simply smiled lightly, trying to brush away her concern. "I'm old already. Walking a little slower is normal." He said it naturally, as if he didn't want anyone to worry. But Hoài Ca still felt a quiet uneasiness growing in her heart. She had spent enough time beside him to notice even the smallest changes in his condition. Over the following days, Hoài Ca's concern became clearer and stronger. Her grandfather's health did not improve. In fact, he seemed to be growing weaker. He still tried to maintain his usual routine, still went to the herbal garden every day, and still received villagers who came asking for medicine. But Hoài Ca noticed that he had to sit and rest more often than before. Sometimes, when no one was paying attention, he would gently press his hand against his stomach, as if enduring some kind of discomfort. Even so, whenever Hoài Ca asked him about it, he would always say it was nothing serious. He continued drinking the herbal remedies he usually used whenever he felt unwell. But this time, his condition did not seem to improve. One afternoon, when the sunlight had softened and a breeze from the garden drifted toward the porch, her grandfather was resting in his familiar wooden chair. Hoài Ca was preparing some medicine inside the house when she suddenly noticed him holding his stomach. His face tightened briefly, as if he were trying to endure a sudden wave of pain. Hoài Ca immediately walked over. "Grandpa, are you okay?" Her voice was filled with worry. Her grandfather quickly shook his head, trying to remain calm as usual. "It's nothing, probably just a small stomach ache." But Hoài Ca knew he was hiding something. She could clearly see the exhaustion on his face, something she rarely saw before. The uneasy feeling in her heart was no longer just a vague suspicion. After discussing the situation with the rest of the family, everyone agreed that they could no longer delay. Although her grandfather kept saying that there was nothing to worry about, his condition made everyone deeply uneasy. Finally, the family decided that they would take him to a large hospital for a thorough examination. On that day, Hoài Ca barely left her grandfather's side. From the moment she prepared his things for the trip until she helped him get into the car, she stayed beside him with worried eyes. Hùng also went with Hoài Ca on that trip. When he heard that her grandfather's health was not good, he immediately arranged his work so he could accompany her. He understood that Hoài Ca needed someone beside her during this time. The car slowly left the familiar village road and headed toward the city. Hoài Ca sat beside her grandfather, gently holding his hand as if trying to comfort him. But inside, she could not stop worrying. She only hoped that this trip would bring good news, something that would reassure everyone. Yet deep inside her heart, there was still a feeling of uneasiness that she could not explain. And that very trip would open a completely new turning point in the story of Hoài Ca and her family. After completing a series of necessary examinations and medical tests, the doctors finally asked the entire family to come into the consultation room. The hospital corridor outside was still crowded with people walking back and forth, but for Hoài Ca and her family, all the surrounding sounds seemed distant and faint. Everyone could feel that the results of these examinations would determine many things. The door of the consultation room quietly closed after they entered. Inside the brightly lit room, the doctor held a thick medical file in his hands. He looked at each member of the family slowly, as if carefully considering how to explain the situation so that they could prepare themselves. The atmosphere in the room became so heavy that almost no one dared to speak first. After a brief silence, the doctor finally began. "Your grandfather's liver has been severely damaged." His voice was calm and slow, every word spoken carefully. "At this point, the only way to save him is a liver transplant." Those words seemed to freeze the entire room for a long moment. Hoài Ca felt her heart tighten. Although in the past few days she had sensed that her grandfather's illness was not simple, she had never imagined that his condition would be this serious. Her grandfather remained seated quietly in his chair, his expression calmer than the others around him. Perhaps because he had lived many years, he understood that the human body would eventually grow weak with time. But when he saw the worry on Hoài Ca's face, his own heart could not help but feel heavy. The doctor continued explaining the condition more clearly. He said that the damage to her grandfather's liver had been developing for a long time, and now the liver was no longer functioning properly. Ordinary treatments could only relieve the symptoms for a short time, but could not solve the root of the problem. To prolong his life and improve his condition, the best solution is a liver transplant, the doctor said. He looked at each member of the family and added, "But in order to perform a liver transplant, we need a suitable donor." Those words brought another wave of silence into the room. Everyone understood that it meant someone in the family would need to donate a portion of their liver to save him. In the days that followed, the family began a long series of medical tests. One by one, each member of the family came to the hospital for compatibility examinations. The doctors performed many different tests to determine whether anyone could become a suitable liver donor. Hoài Ca's older brother was the first to be tested. He walked into the testing room with both worry and hope in his heart. All he wished was that his results would be compatible so he could help his grandfather overcome the illness. After him, other relatives in the family also went through the same examinations. Each time a test result returned, everyone waited anxiously. But one by one, the results showed that none of them were suitable. No one had the necessary compatibility required for the transplant. With every result the doctor announced, the atmosphere within the family grew heavier. Finally, Hoài Ca decided to take the test as well. She walked into the examination room with a surprisingly calm mind. She did not think too much about the outcome. Deep in her heart, she only hoped that if she were compatible, she could help her grandfather get through this difficult time. The days of waiting for the results passed slowly. It felt as if time itself had slowed down. Each person carried their own thoughts, yet all shared the same hope that someone would be compatible and able to save him. When the day finally came for the results, the doctor entered the room holding the medical file. He looked around at the family before slowly saying the words everyone had been waiting for. Only Hoài Ca is compatible. Those words stunned everyone in the room. No one spoke for several seconds. The silence filled the space as if no one had fully grasped the meaning of what had just been announced. Hoài Ca looked down at the results in her hands. The numbers and words on the paper suddenly appeared extremely clear before her eyes. She understood exactly what they meant. If her grandfather was to be saved, she was the only one who could do it. She slowly turned to look at him. His face remained calm, but his eyes carried many unspoken thoughts. In Hoài Ca's heart, there was actually very little hesitation. To her, her grandfather was not only a relative she had recently reunited with after many years apart. He was also the one who patiently taught her every herbal remedy, every piece of knowledge, every small lesson about life. If there was even a chance to help him, she was willing to do it. But when her grandfather heard the result, his reaction shocked everyone. "No," he said firmly. His voice was not loud, but it carried absolute determination. Everyone in the room looked at him in surprise. Hoài Ca was also stunned when she heard his response. He looked straight at her, his eyes filled with worry and love. "I'm already old. How many more years could I possibly live?" His voice softened. "You are still young. You still have your whole life ahead of you. I don't want you to sacrifice yourself for me." Those words made Hoài Ca feel her throat tighten. She knew he was saying this because he did not want her to take any risk. But to her, saving him was not a sacrifice, it was something she truly wanted to do. "Please don't say that," Hoài Ca said, her voice trembling. Tears began to gather in the corners of her eyes. Yet her grandfather still shook his head. His expression remained just as firm as before. Even though the rest of the family tried to persuade him, he refused to change his decision. He did not want Hoài Ca to risk her health in order to save him. And because of that, he firmly refused the treatment. Hoài Ca's family found themselves in an extremely difficult situation. Everyone understood that time was running out, yet no one knew how to persuade her grandfather to change his decision. It was painful for them to watch his health grow weaker day by day, but his determination left them feeling helpless. The days at the hospital passed under a heavy atmosphere. Each time the doctors came to check on him, Hoài Ca stood beside the bed, trying to remain calm. But deep inside her heart, there was a constant worry. She knew that if her grandfather continued refusing treatment, the chance to save him would become smaller with every passing day. Her grandfather still maintained his familiar calmness. Even lying on the hospital bed, he tried to appear peaceful so that everyone would worry less. Yet, sometimes his eyes quietly lingered on Hoài Ca for a long time, as if he himself was struggling with thoughts he could not easily express. That night, the hospital became quieter as the corridors gradually emptied. The soft white lights illuminated the room where her grandfather was resting. Hoài Ca sat beside the bed, silently looking at him for a long time. Gently, she took his thin hand in hers. Those hands had once guided her through the medicinal garden, patiently teaching her about each plant and every herbal remedy. Those hands had spent an entire lifetime helping countless people in their village. Now, those same hands were growing weaker day by day. Hoài Ca spoke softly, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. You waited more than 20 years for me, before I could finally find you again." Her grandfather did not answer. He remained silent, his eyes looking toward the ceiling as if lost in deep thought. The room became so quiet that the steady beeping of the heart monitor could be heard clearly. Hoài Ca tightened her hold on his hand. "Now that I've finally found you, how could I lose you again?" Her words filled the room with a heavy silence. During the long journey of finding her family, Hoài Ca had always dreamed of peaceful days spent beside her grandfather. Yet before she could fully enjoy those moments, his illness had suddenly appeared. Tears slowly fell from her eyes. This time, she did not try to hide them. "I'm not sacrificing anything," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm just saving my family." Those words broke through the calm that her grandfather had been holding onto. He turned to look at her, his eyes filled with deep emotion. In those eyes, which had witnessed so many years of life, there was both love and the helplessness of a grandfather who did not want his granddaughter to face any risk. He wanted to say something, but the words did not come easily. Finally, he simply held Hoài Ca's hand tightly. His hand trembled slightly. "You foolish girl." His voice was gentle, yet full of emotion. After that conversation, her grandfather no longer refused as firmly as before. The family began preparing for the liver transplant surgery, a crucial operation on which everyone placed their greatest hope. The following days were filled with preparations, procedures, and medical examinations. The doctors carefully explained every step of the surgery and continued monitoring the health of both Hoài Ca and her grandfather to ensure everything was suitable for the operation. For Hoài Ca, fear was not what occupied her thoughts. The only thing she wished for was that her grandfather could recover. At last, the day of the surgery arrived. That morning, the hospital corridor was busier than usual. Nurses and doctors moved quickly as they prepared everything for the operation. Hoài Ca was taken into the operating room first. Before the door closed, she managed to catch a glimpse of Hùng standing in the distant hallway. His eyes were filled with worry. The operating room doors slowly shut. Outside, the entire family waited anxiously. Time seemed to move more slowly than usual. Hùng had arrived at the hospital early that morning. He barely left the hallway the entire day. When Hoài Ca was taken into surgery, he stood silently in front of the closed door for a long time. Eventually, he sat down on the long bench outside. His hands were tightly clasped together. His eyes never left the operating room doors, as if watching them could somehow calm his restless heart. The hours passed in tension and anxiety. No one spoke much. Each person carried their own thoughts. Yet they all shared the same hope that the surgery would succeed. Finally, after many long hours, the operating room doors opened. The doctor stepped outside. Everyone immediately stood up. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. Then the doctor smiled gently. The surgery was successful. Those words felt like a beam of light breaking through the tension of the entire day. Hoài Ca's family almost burst into tears of relief. Hùng stood still for a moment before finally letting out a deep breath, as if he could only now release the worry that had built up inside him for hours. The days that followed were a period of recovery. Hoài Ca remained in the hospital so doctors could closely monitor her health after donating part of her liver. The medical team frequently checked her condition to ensure her body was adapting well. In another hospital room, her grandfather's condition also began to stabilize. The transplant had significantly improved his health. Although both of them still needed time to recover completely, the most important thing was that they had already overcome the most dangerous stage. And during those days of recovery, the bond between the members of Hoài Ca's family grew stronger than ever before. During the entire time Hoài Ca stayed in the hospital recovering after the surgery, Hùng barely left her side. From the smallest daily tasks to the more important ones, he personally took care of everything with great attention. Every meal was prepared on time according to the doctor's instructions. A warm glass of water was always placed beside her bed. Every dose of medicine was carefully reminded by him so that she would take it at the right moment. In the first days after the surgery, Hoài Ca was still quite weak. She needed to lie down and rest most of the time, limit her movement, and nurses frequently came to check on her condition. Each time the doctors visited for examinations, Hùng stood beside them, listening carefully to every instruction. He remembered every small detail so that he could care for her better. Sometimes, when Hoài Ca felt tired after taking her medication, Hùng would gently help adjust her pillow, pull the blanket neatly over her, and sit quietly beside her. He did not speak much. He simply stayed there, like a silent support that made her feel more at ease. The days in the hospital passed slowly. Outside the window of the hospital room, the sunlight shone in from a different angle each day, quietly reminding them that time was moving forward and that everyone's health was gradually improving. Some nights the hospital became very quiet. Only the soft lights remained, along with the faint footsteps of nurses making their rounds through the corridors. On one such night, Hoài Ca suddenly woke up. She opened her eyes and turned to look beside her. Hùng was still there, sitting on the chair next to the hospital bed. He leaned slightly forward, his hands clasped together, his eyes still fixed on her as if he had been waiting for her to wake up. Hoài Ca softly called out to him, "Aren't you going home to rest?" Her voice was still weak, but it was enough for Hùng to hear. He lifted his head and looked at her, then gave a gentle smile. It was not a big smile, just the familiar warmth she had always seen in him. "I feel more at ease staying here." His answer was that simple. Yet for Hoài Ca, it brought an immense sense of comfort. She did not say anything more. She simply smiled softly and closed her eyes again. Knowing that someone was always there beside her made her feel as though she had nothing left to worry about. In the days that followed, both of them gradually recovered more and more. Hoài Ca could sit up longer, and eating became easier for her. The doctors continued to check on her regularly and told her that her body was adapting very well after the surgery. In another hospital room, her grandfather was also recovering day by day. Thanks to the successful transplant, his health was gradually stabilizing. At first, he still needed to lie down most of the time, but after a while he was able to sit up and slowly practice walking around the room. Whenever the nurses helped Hoài Ca visit him, he would hold her hand for a long time. His eyes were always filled with love and deep emotion. For him, the fact that Hoài Ca had been willing to donate part of her liver to save his life was something he had never expected. He understood that the bond between them had become far deeper after everything they had just gone through. The recovery period passed day by day, and finally the moment arrived that the entire family had been waiting for. After the final examination, the doctor smiled and said that both Hoài Ca and her grandfather were recovering well. As long as they continued following the recommended lifestyle and rest schedule, they would be able to return home to continue their recovery. On the day they were discharged from the hospital, the atmosphere in the family was filled with emotion. Hoài Ca stood beside her grandfather's hospital bed, watching as he slowly stood up with the help of a nurse. His steps were still slow, but the important thing was that he could stand steadily on his own. Her grandfather turned to look at Hoài Ca. He held her hand for a long moment. His hand was still thin and frail, but his grip was strong. "I owe you my entire life." His voice lowered, filled with emotion. Hoài Ca immediately shook her head. She gave a gentle smile, her eyes warm. "I just want you to be healthy." For her, the most important thing was not hearing words of gratitude. What she truly wanted was for him to live well, to continue caring for the medicinal garden, and to continue teaching her the remedies he had preserved throughout his life. Hùng stood nearby, watching the two of them. His heart was filled with emotions that were difficult to put into words. Over the past days, he had witnessed everything from the family's worry, the long hours waiting outside the operating room, to the moment when the surgery succeeded and everyone slowly recovered. For him, this moment felt like proof that any hardship could be overcome when a family stood together. Once all the discharge procedures were completed, the entire family walked out of the hospital together. The morning sunlight shone across the road ahead. The sky was bright blue, and the air felt much lighter than during the tense days before. Hoài Ca walked slowly beside her grandfather. Hùng followed closely behind, always ready to support her if she needed it. The road ahead seemed wider and clearer. A new chapter for their family had begun. After all the challenges they had gone through, Hoài Ca's family had once again overcome the difficulties before them. The anxious days had slowly come to an end, making way for the peaceful days waiting ahead. And this time, what they had preserved was not only the bond between family members. They had also come to understand more deeply the value of sacrifice, love, and the powerful connection between people who are willing to stand beside one another during the most difficult moments of life.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Mấy hôm nay thì mình có một số việc bận nên là có thể 1-2 hôm tới mình sẽ không thể lên video đều được. Hy vọng là mọi người vẫn sẽ ủng hộ và theo dõi kênh của mình nhiều hơn và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn mọi người nhé. Nếu như mà yêu quý kênh mình thì hãy đăng ký kênh, bật chuông thông báo lên để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào nhé. Bây giờ thì mình mới đang làm video và mình đang đặt tên cho video. Liệu mọi chuyện tiếp theo sẽ ra sao và cuộc sống của Hoài Ca và Hùng như thế nào thì mời mọi người đón xem những tập tiếp theo ở trên kênh của mình nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video sau. Bye bye.